Hello. Today we're talking about a very special build. We're going to talk about a buffing build. Okay? In my experience in D&D 5e anyway, there's no class that it fills the archetypal role of a buffer build. Okay? Now, I understand that you're saying, well, there's a bard in the game, and there's been a bard for fucking ever. I get that, but what I'm trying to say is that even a bard, right? What does a bard do? Gives you bardic inspiration, and, it's what, a D4, and then a D6, and then a D8, but, I mean, that's it, right? When you look at the spell list in D&D, when you look at all the spells, even within the spell list, there aren't dramatic spells that work as buff spells in the sense that they dramatically... Well, I guess there's the haste spell. Whatever. Let me just... Okay. Listen. This is what I'm trying to say. There's no buff class, so we're going to make a buff build. So, let's get right into it. First of all, for race, we're going dwarf. Now, dwarf's going to give us a few things, but most importantly, two things. One, we're getting Dwarven combat training. No, not Dwarven combat training. We're getting, where's the thing that gives you, the armor? Don't you get armor from being a dwarf? Yes, your speed. Okay, so under dwarf, under the clause, the speed clause, it says your base walking speed is 25 feet. But it also says your speed is not reduced by wearing heavy armor. Now, you don't get armor proficiency from being a dwarf. You do get some weapon proficiencies and some other stuff, but you don't get armor proficiency. But that is an important feature of the dwarf. Is that. Anyway, moving on, we also get Dwarven Toughness. And Dwarven Toughness is going to increase your hit point maximum by 1 and then increase it every level by 1. Great feature. Love dwarves. They're great. Yeah, so moving on, we're also going to get... Oh, no. Let's talk about our stats. Stat-wise... This might come off a little bit confusing, but you'll see why we're doing it this way later on. So, you're going to put your +2 in Charisma and your +1 in Dex. And that's going to give you 8 Strength, 14 Dex, 14 Con, 9 Intelligence, 13 Wisdom, and 17 Charisma. Now, you see we're dealing with a few odd numbers here, and we're dealing with a few spread out stats. That's going to allow us to do two things. One is it is going to allow us to take some half feats. And two, as you can see, we're going to be sort of multi-attribute dependent. Not exactly dependent. Mad isn't we're not going to be mad. We're going to be soft mad. Okay? Because we're not really going to be dependent on a lot of different things. But we do need a little bit of stats here and there. And again, it's going to allow us to take some half feats later on. And we're building a build that allows itself to do that. So, starting first level, class-wise, we're going Cleric. Okay? Again, this is a buffer build. So, the strategy behind this build is like, hey, look team, I'm going to help you guys do you the best you can do it. I'm going to buff you. I'm going to maybe have some debuffs for the enemies, but probably not. I'm going to have some control for the enemies, some battlefield control, but also probably not. I'm going to have a little bit of even melee and even some resilience, some survivability as a dwarf, and we're going to be getting hard. Okay. Class-wise, we're going Cleric. I just want to make sure you understand what is happening here, right? Because I wasn't, I can be a bit all over the place. But here we are at first level. We're a dwarf. Our stats are figured out, and our first level class is Cleric. Cleric is a great class. You get a great spell list, even at first level. So at first level, as far as spells, we're taking Guidance, 100%. One of the best cantrips in the game. We're also going to take Bless at first level in terms of spells. Other than that, you can kind of take what you want. I suggest Shield of Faith, first level spell, Bane maybe. And really, as you go through these spell lists and you take spells that I'm not mentioning here, you always want to take a spell that is targeting an ally if you can. And the reason for that is because our Cleric subclass is going to be Cleric Order of the Domain. Order Domain. The Order Domain Cleric has a great ability. It's called the Voice of Authority. Starting at first level, you can invoke the power of law to embolden an ally attack. If you cast a spell with the spell slot of first level or higher and target an ally with the spell, that ally can use their reaction immediately after the spell to make one weapon attack against a creature of your choice that you can see. If the spell targets more than one ally, you choose the ally who can make the attack. So listen, this means that every time we target an ally, they're going to take an attack, using their reaction, but still. And so that is why we need spells that target allies. Now, this doesn't actually mean that you need spells that target allies. No, it does. It doesn't mean you need spells that help allies. You could, for example, target an ally with a melee damage spell. A damage spell, and it would still be effective. Okay, my girlfriend's calling me. Hold on. Okay, all I was trying to say is basically that you can target an ally with any spell. It doesn't have to be a, for example, healing spell. But it could be, and it should be. I'm just saying, just to point that out. To proc this thing, it doesn't need to be a beneficial spell. It could be a damage-dealing spell. And to that point, it could also be an AoE spell that, they save against, or they're likely to save against, or, I don't know. Whatever. Point is, Voice of Authority. This is the central part of this build that's going to allow us to buff allies, giving them an attack on your turn using their reaction. So, rogues in the party, if there's a rogue in your party, highly consider this build. Because that means they're going to be able to get reaction, attack, sneak attack, so they can reliably get 2 rounds or 2 procs of sneak attack per round. Okay, so now that we have our class and our main feature of this build, we've talked a little bit about spells. Oh, in addition to the Voice of Authority, we're also getting proficiency with heavy armor and a proficiency with either intimidation or persuasion. So that's also a key here, is that now we're proficient with heavy armor. You'll recall that our stats don't allow us to wear heavy armor, or so you might think. That's actually not true. All it means is that us wearing heavy armor with no strength would otherwise half our movement speed, but our movement speed can't be halved because we're a dwarf. Or at least it can't be halved by wearing armor or whatever. I forget the wording, but we already talked about it. So far, we're a dwarf, we are a cleric, we're level 1, and we have probably like Healing Word and Shield of Faith and Bless, and all of those spells will proc the Voice of Authority. So even at level 1, we're a good guy here. In addition to our heavy armor, we also get proficiency in shields, I believe, because we're a cleric, right? Yeah. And we also get 2 skill proficiencies. If you're going to take persuasion, that means that you can take intimidation from your class, but also take insight, 100%. And other than that, we get also heroism and command. Command is a great spell. We're getting that from our subclass. Heroism is not as great, but it's good with Voice of Authority because it procs the the thing, and it gives you temp HP, or it gives your ally temp HP. I think it's concentration though, and that is something to consider. But moving on. Again, we're Cleric. We're doing good things in the party from an early level. Clerics are great. Everybody knows that. But surprisingly, from here on out, we're done with Cleric. For the rest of the campaign, we are not going to be leveling Cleric at all. And I know that that is kind of surprising. But again, remember our stats. We don't have high wisdom. So we don't really want to be casting any spells that require wisdom. And we win all that charisma, and guess what? We're going Bard at 2nd level. Bard at 2nd level is not really going to give us a whole lot. We do get that Bardic Inspiration that I talked about. It's a D6. I was wrong about the D4 thing, but, you know, Bardic Inspiration, which is decent, but again, it's not enough of a buff thing in and of itself. But now we have that Voice of Authority, and we're getting more spells. And at 1st level, if you didn't take Healing Word before, take it now. I would, again, we're looking for spells that target allies, so although that Long Strider wouldn't normally be a great spell, here it is a great spell because it's going to give someone an attack, and it doesn't require concentration. And we can even cast it on ourselves or upcast it to get 2 targets, and again, doesn't require concentration. So it's a good spell to have. I would also take Silvery Barbs, though, if it's available to you. Now might be a time to take Cure Wounds if you want it. And you maybe do actually want 1 or 2, you know, start to maybe pick up a Tasha's Hideous Laughter or something that's going to be effective against enemies. Sleep is a good one at a low level, but you should get rid of that later. Cantrip-wise, take Minor Illusion. And other than that, have a ball. Whatever you want to do it. Inspiration-wise, if you're not playing with the optional Bardic Inspiration rules, once we get our subclass, you're almost never going to spend Bardic Inspiration on your allies. However, if you are playing with the optional rules, which I assume generally most people are, then you're almost always going to be using Bardic Inspiration on your allies. So, just remember that. And you know what? Screw it. We're going to take our subclass right now. Let's move on. Let's go to subclass. For our subclass, we're taking the College of the Swords. College of the Swords is a great subclass, generally more for martial-focused builds. We're not a martial-focused build, but this is a great subclass for us. And the reason is a few things. Number one, we get a fighting style. And remember, we're in heavy armor that doesn't slow us. We're wearing a shield, okay? And so our AC is at 18 as a spellcaster, as a buffing spellcaster. And we're going to now be allowed to use our primary, or any weapon that we're proficient with, to cast spells. So this waives the somatic component of spells effectively and lets you use your weapon as a spellcasting focus. We get proficiency in scimitars, which we're going to use because that's probably, I believe we didn't get any from we didn't get any finesse weapons from Cleric nor from our race, and our strength is so take the scimitar. It's a d6, not great, but we're also taking dueling. And dueling is going to give us a +2 to our damage. Or no. Yeah, to our damage. So at 3rd level you get a fighting style. We're taking dueling. So now we have dueling, we have the shield, we have our sword as a spellcasting focus, or our scimitar rather. And we're in heavy armor, and we also get Blade Flourish. And Blade Flourish allows us to spend our Bardic Inspiration die on one of 3 abilities that essentially allow you to add damage to the attack, as well as an AC bonus, a pushing of the enemy, or I think you can also like deal extra damage to another enemy. But this is great stuff. This is going to allow you to, again, raise your AC or push someone. Those are the main ones that you're going to do. And pushing, forced movement in D&D is an incredibly undervalued strategic element. And as we're a buffing build, that's great for us, because that means if we need to help out an ally and we need to move an enemy away from that ally, we can run up there, attack them, and try and push them away. It's really a great feature for us to have on this build. And I forgot to mention, with Blade Flourish, whenever you take an attack on your turn, your walking speed increases by 10 feet until the end of that turn. So our slighted movement from being a dwarf, our 25 movement speed, is now completely negated by the fact that we have this Blade Flourish ability, because whenever we attack, we're going to be able to move. So let's talk a little bit about strategy here now that we have the build set up. I know I'm very chaotic in my explanation of where we're at so far, but let's do a quick summary and talk about strategy. To summarize, we're at 18 AC. We're casting through our sword as a spell casting focus, or scimitar. We're a cleric. We have Bless. I haven't talked much about the spells that we're taking as a bard, but right now we're level 4. We have second level spells, I believe, as a bard, 3 bard and 1 cleric. Yeah, so at level 4 you do have a second level spell at least. Maybe just take like suggestion or something. Again, this is the problem with this build, is that there are only so many buff spells in the game. So when I say take suggestion or whatever dumb shit I just said to take, I'm wrong. You're actually going to take aid for your second level spell. But bards have a great spell list, and really go through this spell list as you're leveling. Keep in mind the strategy of like, I need spells that target allies. I'm not dealing damage. I'm not doing a lot of control, but those things are still viable and you should still do them. But again, our focus is towards buffing. So we have aid. So again, to sort of step back, what we're doing is we're AC'd out of our mind. We're able to be viable in combat. And every time we target an ally with a spell, we can freaking give them an attack. So on any given turn, just for an example, you could cast aid with your action, giving everybody an extension on their maximum HP, then choosing an ally to attack, probably the rogue, maybe the ranger, the fighter, the barbarian, somebody. This has to be a weapon attack, mind you. Then you still have your bonus action, and with your bonus action, you could have given them Bardic Inspiration before you cast aid. And if you're playing with the optional rules, they can add that dice to whatever they want or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I think with the optional rules, it's like, just go crazy. Put it on damage dice, put it on attack dice, put it on whatever you want. Point is, that's a great strategy. On the flip side, you can also cast bonus action targets. So, for example, Healing Word, one of the best spells in the game, right? Throw an ally some health, maybe even get them up. An ally just went down, you bonus action Healing Word, now they're up, now they can attack. So maybe they're a ranged person or whatever. They attack, they hit, now you have an action. You can't cast a level spell, but you can cast a cantrip, which you shouldn't, but maybe you should in some circumstances, guidance, whatever. But if you don't do that, you should go and attack, because your dex is 14, sure, but you have dueling, and you're proficient in the scimitar, and like your damage is gonna be decent enough. And again, we bonus action Healing Word, so we still used our action, and now we can use our Blade Flourish, I believe, because it doesn't require a bonus action, does it? When you take your attack, if you attack as part of the action, you can use one of the following options blah, blah, blah. You can spend one of your Bardic Inspiration die. Yes, so using the Blade Flourish ability doesn't require any action economy. It requires the resource of your Bardic Inspiration, but it doesn't require action economy. So within that turn, you have 35 movement speed. You're probably moving or raising your AC, and you're doing some solid damage. Not great damage, that's not really our primary focus here, but if you include the attack that you just gave your ally, you've had a massively productive turn. Massively. Okay? Moving on. Now, I've played this build, it's a great build, I've had a lot of fun with it, and everyone loves you because you're giving them an attack on your turn lots and lots of turns, and you rarely go down because you have good health, you have good AC, and you're sometimes like tanking hits and doing stuff and all that. But also, oh yeah, I meant to say I've played this build and it's fun and etc., but I haven't played it that deep into a campaign. Now, I probably shouldn't admit that, but I say that to say this. We're going to dwindle down this video pretty soon. But before we do, let's go to 4th level. At 4th level, you're going to take a feat, and that feat is going to be Fey Touched. That's going to get our Charisma to 18, and that's also going to give us Misty Step. And Misty Step is a great spell. We kind of need it now that we're jumping into combat every now and then. And if things get hairy, it's a good spell to have to get out of sticky situations. And it gets our Charisma to 18. Which gives our spellcasting modifier, on par with where really it should be. At 4th level, we don't really get anything else other than spells, and again, just be mindful of good spells. You have a great spell list as a bard, and don't be afraid to take what would otherwise be considered suboptimal spells just because they target an ally or because they fit the theme of buffing your allies, being a buffer. For example, as we approach 5th, 6th level in Bard, 7th level overall, as we have 1 level in Cleric, you're going to get 3rd level spells. And Hypnotic Pattern is on the spell list. It's one of the best spells in the game in terms of 3rd level spells, but it might not actually be the best on this character. Every caster that has this available to them should take this spell, and probably does take this spell. It is the most optimal spell to take, but given that you are fitting a very particular role, and I'm assuming that you've played the game before, you've played builds, and you want to take something different, do it. Take something different. Definitely take Mass Healing Word, okay? You need that. But, take, like, I don't know, Enthrall or something. What was on the spell list? Not Enthrall. I think that's like a 2nd level spell. Take Motivational Speech. Take Stinking Cloud. I don't know. There's not a lot of. Well, Fear is a great spell, but again, not really what I'm trying to go for here. Maybe just take Hypnotic Pattern just because it's still a good spell. You're still going to have a good spellcasting modifier. And really, maybe that's the major point of this build. You have this thing where you can Healing Word and give someone an attack every turn, and at the same time give them Bardic Inspiration, and at the same time either do that or attack and be viable. You have good AC, you have good health as a spellcaster and all that. And when you can do all that and at the same time have access to Hypnotic Pattern and Fear, maybe it is smart to take those spells sometimes. But take Mass Healing Word, take whatever else that you might want to experiment a little. My girlfriend's calling me again. I will be back. Okay, so my girlfriend called me, and then, I got distracted, and this is like 3 days later, but it doesn't matter. Point is, we're pretty much done with this build anyway. I don't know where we were in the video, but let me just let you know, this build is really great. We'll take it a few more levels just to talk about a few things. You get an extra attack at 6th level with your subclass. So that's going to make your attack action a little bit more viable. Again, you have dueling, so you're doing okay damage. We don't have great decks, but as you level this build, you know, take half feats, maybe Resilient Wisdom, take things that are, oh no, wait, no, you don't need the Resilient Wisdom because we already have Wisdom saving throws, but Observant or something, even out those stats, take the half feats, make yourself sort of a really strong, diverse character, and as you level your spells, take things where you can target, what's it called? You know, allies. Greater invisibility, whatever else, you know. And I think that's it. So, yeah, you know, you're a bard. Your bardic inspiration is going to level. It's always great to be able to cast, for example, like Bless plus bardic inspiration, and someone's attacking with a blessed attack and being able to add their bardic inspiration to either their damage or their attack roll. Pretty amazing. This is an excellent build. And we're like, you know, 18 AC, good health, great spell list. We're doing all the things, and your allies will love you. And so do I. Thank you for being here. I think that's it, right? I mean, we've talked this thing to death. Oh, you're going to get magical secrets also, because you're a bard, so you can pick a spell from any other list. And normally you'd probably pick a counterspell, but you know, with a build like this, get creative, because I'm out of creativity. I don't know what else to do. I played the build, it's great, but I'm just saying, you know, have fun. I've told you how to do it. Yeah, I love you. Have a good day.